So today, don't know what I'm gonna do. Maybe I'll mess with an origami thing. I want to do that, but I also want to mess with uh, like building that out in a different way. Also, it takes a long time to set up and record. It takes an additional like 30 minutes to 40 minutes to set up, record, and process the footage of if I have a 3D object that I'm rotating. But I think that really adds to the quality of the thing. Uh, so let me see what I have in my web store. I always forget what is currently available. Trace loops store. I don't have a super consistent speaking voice on stuff, so sometimes like I'm up close personal, further away. I actually don't have a recent instance of like a regular old blockhead thing, so I might just do that. I might take. I did something not too long ago of folding paper as like just a general thing to create some lines. So I think what I'm going to do is fold paper in some various ways. And then use that as a base for some blockheads. Steroid loops. Sounds good. I think a muscular face is what the people are really wanting. The veinier, the better. That's what I found out from spending time on TikTok, is that kids want hyper-masculinity and veiny faces. That's what Gen Z's begging for. It's not what they're going for. You want TikTok's reel into hypermasculinity on your tombstone? I just thought, as far as muscular things go, I think it would be funny if there were like a super muscular Chica drawing. Just a swole little lady. It's no longer a white sausage, but a white, I don't know. Can't think of a quick descriptor that means muscular or like would be super muscular Chica. She has a little luchador. Get blown away by the wind. She at least doesn't have a lot of surface area, but wind probably affects her more so than I think. I did go out today, but there's a mobile COVID testing site and it's been a while, and my nose has been a little bit stuffy, so I was like, and I had to go to the dentist last week, and so I just am like, I should check and see where I'm at with stuff, but I was just outside, so I was waiting outside of like a mobile trailer sort of, or like a tour bus sort of thing. I won't know for a few days because it was a nasal swab. Gonna add this one. Okay. And I want one of these pieces of tracing paper because it will fit on my scanner. But I was standing in the wind for a minute, but probably not as bad as where you're at because you're closer to the water. Closer to some water and up on a hill with less building coverage. What was the thing? I also mentioned like to my sister that I was going to get tested, and she was like, "When's the last time that the air filter got changed out in the furnace?" And I was like, "I don't know. I'll go look at the filter." And I looked, and it was not clean. So that might also be a direct reason why I've been having a stuffy nose. So I ordered some new air filters for that guy, and hopefully that helps. At the very least, it's a good thing to do because it was like caked in dust and probably making the heating run less efficiently. Probably kind of bad. And so it's a different positive outcome of just testing stuff, making sure things are working in order. We're just gonna do this as one spot. Okay. And ink. And let's see, do I still have that chunkier guy hanging around in here? The larger brush. If I use a larger brush, it sort of forces me to change how I draw lines and stuff, so it just means that I get a little bit more variance in application. I'm not sure when I might be able to get vaccinated, but it'll probably be a minute. Unless stuff gets more robust in the coming weeks, months. Or somehow, it's weird seeing like people lucking into getting a vaccine. Saw a thing recently where there was like a snowstorm in Oregon or something, and it made it so some healthcare workers that were transporting a collection of vaccines were like, we're not gonna get to our destination in time before these expire, so let's just go around and vaccinate random people who are also stuck in the snow, which is good, but it's also like, that is chaotic. And I've also seen some other things of people like hanging out at vaccine locations in hopes that people don't show up for their appointments so that they can take the doses. LA is kind of chaotic for like how people are waiting in line from what I've seen. I don't know what the rollout for vaccination is like internationally, but because America's in a bad position in general, to have, I guess the idea is like, well, we didn't do any of the preparation, so let's do the like after the fact solution aggressively. Actually, because I left this little tab on here, it's acting up more because it's trying to straighten out. I asked my friend what the rollout was like in Georgia, and he just laughed at me. Fair. I don't think I know anyone in Atlanta that's gotten a vaccine or is like in line to get a vaccine. But at least testing is easier than it was a year ago. You just sort of find a spot and get. Oh, I don't know what it's like for different New York spots. I've seen some things where people are like, this is the shortest wait I've had. It was 45 minutes. Today I waited like 5 odd minutes. It was a place I haven't been before, and I just had to like show an ID and tell them that I had some mild symptoms in the form of like stuffy nose, so they were like, you're not coming on the bus. So the person just came to the entrance to the bus, swabbed my nose. This time they swabbed both the nostrils, and because they were standing like on the stairs to the bus, it was a slightly different position than it normally is, where it's either I've done it where I'd sit down and have it swabbed, and then also where I'm standing up and they swab, but it was probably the least comfortable of the recent times that I've had a swab, and they did both nostrils. But it's not like I did not have any tests where seeing earlier versions of people like going up in cars and having like 4-inch swabs going all the way back to get to like the throat, back of the nasal passage. I've not had that. It's not particularly comfortable what I have had, but not to that extent. I have had something put in my nose, like further back, going that far. I had a rhino rocket. That's what they called it. I think there's different names for it, but I had a nosebleed that wouldn't stop, and so I went to a hospital and took a minute to be seen, but to be fair, like a nosebleed, not the most urgent thing. It was also a busier night at the hospital. But Rhino Rocket is like inflatable gauze stuff. So it's like gauze surrounding a little inflatable balloon-ish thing of sorts. The nurse or someone was like, it's like an inflatable tampon, but it's like 3 inches long, and they dip it in a saline solution to act both for as a lubricant and to like be slightly more sterile, I guess. And then they just put it in your nose, and it's several inches long. And the nurse who did it the first time, I think she wasn't as comfortable doing it, and so it was a worse experience for me as well. Like the hesitation and not being as confident with it means that like there's, yep, stuck it on. But then later that evening, because I stayed in the hospital for a little while as they were like monitoring things and making sure it wasn't bleeding out, I had different occasions where like it kept bleeding. And if you have something stuck in your nose, it's got nowhere else to go, so it like goes down to your mouth. And so they were watching me, and at some point I changed out my gown thing because it had a decent amount of blood on it from my nose, and in that action, like it pulled out one of them, and then I had a second nosebleed in my other one, so they had Rhino Rockets on either side. But the person who put in the other one was a little bit more experienced, it seemed, and so when he put it in, it was like, oh, that was easy, it just sort of happened. Done. But yeah, the least pleasant experience of all of that was getting that put in my nose the first time. Eventually, the ear, nose, throat doctor dude came through, and he was like, here's what we can do. You can leave that thing sort of taped to your face, the Rhino Rocket, because it has a little inflatable, like it's got a tube that comes out, and they taped it to the side of my face. We can leave that a few days, see if it compacts and like stops the bleeding outright, but there's no guarantee on that. Or we can go in and cauterize some of those blood vessels. And I was like, okay, that sounds good. And he was like, okay, we'll schedule you for surgery in an hour or two. And because it was general anesthesia, I had to sign a thing that was like, give up all liability for whatever happens in there, and here's a collection of all of my personal possessions that I will not be wearing or holding while doing surgery. So I had to sign a thing that listed off all of my possessions that I had with me at the time, and put it in a bag and hand it to a security guy. And I didn't feel too nervous about the entire endeavor until the security guy said good luck. And I realized, oh, I don't have any control over any of this. He was super nice, and it's just whatever he does day to day, because that's probably a decent portion of his job. It's just like, okay, you sign this, you have the listing, we're all in order. Okay, have a good surgery. Good luck. I woke up and I thought I was in the Time Life building because I had been there somewhat recently, and it was an unfamiliar area. It's the only time I've been put under general anesthesia. I remember going in that it was a cold room, and they were like, we got heated blankets here. It's going to be cold initially, but you'll be warmer. And then being like, okay, now start counting back from 100. And I just remember not getting past like mid-90s. There were like 4 people in the operating room for my nose. I guess it's of a moderate size, but I never thought that it would merit having like 4 people. But it's the primary surgeon, anesthesiologist assistant and like a second assistant or something. I was only under for like 45 minutes or something, but then I slept upright for like a week or two, and I was very anxious about sneezing for the next month. But I slept upright because if you have a severe nosebleed, it can pull back and catch you in your mouth. It's a weird feeling because usually if you have any sensation of like excess, that's where it smeared. I was like, I could feel it on my thumb. If you have like fluid like that goes in your nose and like down your throat or something, or it's caught up there, it's a different temperature than your body. But if it's blood, it's the same temperature, so you don't have the temperature sensation. You only have the liquid sensation because blood is body temperature. So, weird experience overall. Wouldn't recommend it, but as far as being hospitalized, it's one of the less severe situations you could find yourself in. That was St. Patrick's Day several years ago. I remember because when I was in the like ER area where like they'd start to admit people, there was a whiteboard where they just had written down like general things that doctors and nurses would need to be aware of for patients or actions or like shifts and stuff. So there was a whiteboard in that sort of sectioned off, curtained off area, and there was a very poorly drawn 4-leaf clover that had like 3.5 clovers on it, and so that's how I remember that it was St. Patrick's Day when I don't know if I was technically admitted to the hospital, but when I was in the hospital for less than 24 hours. They were like figuring out if I was going to be admitted or not. I've probably told that story a number of times, even on here, but it's one of my two main experiences in a hospital. The other one being like in 8th grade when I had a migraine headache that caused numbness and some decreased brain functionality in the form of not being able to remember certain words. That one, no operation or anything, but I did get MRIs and various tests to make sure that it wasn't something more severe. That was a Shriners Hospital. The Corsairs, which I'm not sure if it's still functioning as that, but it's a children's hospital that like shared some facilities with one of the other hospitals nearby. Children's hospitals are not a fun place. Like, as far as hospitals are concerned, it's better suited for children, but it's still like, as a concept, it's not a fun thing. Which I wasn't super aware of until I listened to, I think it was a podcast probably, but what's his name? Paul Scheer was talking about, because they had a show on Adult Swim that was Children's Hospital. But the idea of that came about because they were like, it's a very depressing place. And they just were going on about that and like the seriousness of it all, but that it's hidden in other ways. But yeah, you have more murals, but you also have more children going through terrible things. but it's less, at least visually, sort of sterile compared to like your standard adult hospital. Forget what other hospitals are in Louisville. I know there's the University of Louisville Hospital. And is there Mount Sinai, or is that one around here? I forget. Hello, Don Carlos. What am I doing? I'm doing an illustration and talking about my hospital experiences. Cooking with my sister later this evening over like, it's weird that now the default is people saying a Zoom thing, but it's not Zoom, it's Google Hangouts. Because there's no time limit on that. But cooking with her later. Thursdays I typically do a still illustration or something. Something that doesn't take as long to complete. So this is just a illustration of heads that's against something of a fractured looking bit. I folded a piece of paper and then traced the lines. And went from there. The inspiration for these drawings is just sort of a natural evolution of I sort of created a face that's based off of masks and barn owl stuff that was a little bit more curved. Hello, Zinshi. And then I started applying it in different areas. I think the blockier sort of version partly came out of doing more grid-based stuff, but also linoleum cut print, or a linoleum block print, a lino cut. And linoleum is hard to do, like, you can do a partial curve, but there's always sort of a part where you have to cut out of that curving motion. And these blocks were really easy to, these blockheads were much easier to cut in the linoleum than a curved line. And so I started using it to fill out spaces just by either drawing lines or following basic forms, going from there. So these are just, more than anything, it's an easy thing to revisit, paint in and such. Different means of occupying a space. Sometimes it's drawing straight lines, but this time around it's folding and then adding an extra line because some of the things were a little bit large. Just having some followed areas, different ways of creating patterns. What's the audio on making sure that music wasn't like crazy aggressive or loud, because I switched over tapes and I haven't been the most consistent with audio levels recording to the tapes. So just wanted to give a check-in on that. But it looks okay. Scanning tone is the next tone. Or the next thing. Let's move this up a little. There that goes. I'll move this here. So there's something in that section of the screen. Make sure that's dry enough. Plug in the scanner. And image capture, scan this bit. Pull this up. Not this time, because it's going to be sort of flat, and I'm trying to make this a shorter stream. For this one, I'm just going to fill it in digitally, which I'll show you happening. I prefer to fill it in, but with something like this, and it's just a lot of large flat areas that are filled in, and it's not an animation, it's mostly going to live with a higher contrast where the paper texture isn't so clear. I'm just going to scan it and then open it in Photoshop and fill in the solids. But I just realized that I did not add I need to make a folder for this. Excuse me. New folder. 01-28-2021. Copy that. And this up. And where did that end up? Thank you. Blockheads, scan. Take this into here. That made some noise. Let's mute that. Photoshop is open. And so I just need to click that on. Let's open this up. Live Designs 128. Okay, scan. So there's not too much that I'm going to be doing with this, but there's a little bit of texture that pops up here, and it's a little bit dark or it's a little bit gray, and so I'm going to make this a lot darker so that when I'm using the paint bucket tool, that it doesn't spread outside of it. I'll come back in and fix some things, but this is much faster to just be like fill in this entire area than it is to do it with ink. And because this is more like a graphic still, it's less important to me to have it be ink, and because it's not animated, you're not going to see the varying texture of the paper that's warping as a result of the moisture from the ink. Is that filled? Yeah, it's filled. I'm gonna brush split a little bit there. The blush, combined brush and split. And I'm also gonna clean this up a little bit. And this is where, when the ink was still wet, my hand brushed against it. Those sorts of mistakes are more likely to happen when I'm working on something that takes a little bit longer to illustrate. Let's copy, or wait, let's make this a smaller size. Let's just make this, for the sake of this, we're going 1350. And we're gonna crop it out to 1080. And then, let's see, this is a little bit dark up here. Where the scanner overlapped some stuff. And let's up that contrast, darken that a bit. pull this white out. And there you have that. It's not much different. I put a little bit of a border on the side for no, it's just for the cropping that Instagram has. You can't have something that's super tall vertically. It maxes out at a 3:5 aspect ratio, or sorry, 4:5 aspect ratio for vertical things, and so it's a little bit different in that regard. Let's turn off Photoshop. And so, not a terribly different looking bit here, it's just outlines versus filled in. And I can show you the form. And I made this just by folding in different ways to have a somewhat like planned, somewhat not planned pattern to follow. This is 1/28/21. I'm going to actually throw this into a larger envelope because I have them. If you have any questions, feel free to throw them out. Today is a shorter stream because it's a Thursday. Thursdays consistently shorter streams. Uh, 1/28/2021. Blockheads. Folded pattern. One still, one sketch. Okay. So, slow, faster, sort of day to day. Don't have much more to add to any of the stream for what it is. I'm just gonna quickly go through my spiel, and if you have any questions, feel free to throw them out while I'm doing that, or just whenever during streams and such. But putting stuff away, because if I don't do it now, then I'll form a bad habit of never doing it. So, if you want to watch this stream or other streams in full, you can watch them youtube.com/traceloops, and you'll find a bunch of stuff there going back to September, and then a couple odd things from before that. If you want to buy that drawing, or if you want to buy this drawing on a shirt, or other designs, other artworks and such, you can go to traceloops.com/store and buy things there. If you are shipping outside of the US but still want to purchase something, there's not a native option within the store because of varying shipping costs, but I can work with you to organize and send you something, and you can email me to start facilitating that. You can email me traceloops@traceloops.com, and I'll work with you to go over price points and shipping costs, things like that, and get that heading out to you. You can also just email me with general questions or inquiries. If you want to follow me on other platforms, you can follow me on Instagram.com/traceloops, as well as TikTok. Those are all options. Also, I'll throw it in here just because I'm thinking about it. If you follow me on Instagram and you like the Share copy playlist link. You like the music that I'm putting there? I compile a playlist of all of that, and you can listen to. It's not what's playing here currently, but on my reels and such, you can check that out there. If you do like the music that is playing currently, you can download it. Easiest way to get there is the link's like buried in my FTP or something, so it's easier for me to pull it up over here. Copy link address. That is not what I want. Sorry. I'm just gonna have to pull this up through my FTP one. Okay. Copy URLs. If you want to listen to that music on your own account, you can download it there. Once I finish each of the this one's a bit more chaotic, but I'll also put out the other sort of compilation that I have of those tapes. So that's if you just want to listen to or to get MP3 copies of the stuff that's playing. The second one that's in there, the one that says woodblock, that one has inconsistent sound mixing because some of it's ripped from the cassette tape and some of it's what I was sending out to the cassette tape for that one. But the one that's Bongo Boise, I believe that's what's playing now. That one is a little bit more consistent throughout because I pulled it in and gave it like a general limiter for audio. But that one's only separated into 2 MP3s because I wanted it to be more like the cassette tape where you have 2 sides. Anyway, thank you all for watching. Plan on being back tomorrow. Tomorrow will be an animation unless something else comes up. Hello, Ninoy. Today is a shorter stream. Your name's something completely different, but I'm going to keep saying Ninoy. Was it Anna? But it's actually Anna because it's anyway. Or was it someone else? You're catching the tail end of the stream. But if you want to watch it later, you can watch it in full on YouTube at youtube.com/traceloops. Today's a shorter one. It's just the illustration because it's a Thursday. Thursdays are shorter. The short days are Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, and maybe Tuesday. And then the long streams are Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday. It's not uploaded yet, but it will be shortly. Okay, thank you all for watching. Plan on being back tomorrow, doing a longer form or animation sort of thing. I'm still trying to work out a little bit more how best to fulfill some of the requests that people were asking about as far as like conveying creative thought process and better communicating how I'm animating or the choices that I'm making. It's something that I usually just do in my head without narrating it, and so figuring out how to communicate that takes a little bit of effort. But thank you all for watching. I broke 100 followers here on Twitch, which I appreciate all you people going about doing. I also broke 200 on YouTube, which is nice. Um, and then more on Instagram and TikTok. Those are a little bit easier for me to build up. Anyway, thanks for watching. Plan on being back tomorrow. And if there are ever any issues with me going live or anything, you can check my Instagram stories. That's where I'll post to keep you updated. Okay, adios.